Why you shouldn't gossip at work. After a long day of plowing the fields, a cow returned to its stall, exhausted. It thought to itself, "Today was tough. Tomorrow I just want to rest." On its own, this was an innocent thought. However, a cat overheard and shared it with the dog. The cow thinks the master is too harsh, working it to the bone, and now it doesn't want to work anymore. The dog passed the message to the sheep. The cow feels overworked and might quit tomorrow. The sheep then relayed it to the pig. The cow is definitely done working. The master's treatment is cruel, and it gets whipped all the time. Later that evening, while being fed, the pig told the servant, "The cow plans to rebel tomorrow. Other farms treat their animals better. No whips, plenty of food." Alarmed, the servant ran to inform the master. The cow is plotting rebellion and refusing to work. Hearing this, the master decided to slaughter the cow to prevent any further issues. The cow, in reality, had done nothing wrong. It hadn't said anything unreasonable. Yet it became the victim of a simple thought that was exaggerated, distorted, and blown out of proportion as it traveled from one mouth to another. The lesson is clear. At work, avoid gossiping or complaining to your colleagues. Even the smallest comments can be misunderstood, magnified, and ultimately lead to harm. Be mindful of what you share, because words once spoken can spiral into unintended consequences. Don't put your trust in people, trust in human nature instead. You don't have to be an expert in words, but you must learn to read people. If you find yourself too honest, easily taken advantage of, and unsure of how to handle many tricky situations in life, there's a book you might not have considered reading, but if you do, keep it to yourself. The 48 Laws of Power. After reading this book, you'll be better prepared to handle the games others may play in your career and personal life. What kind of person can truly achieve wealth? The answer is someone who has the patience to wait. If you're 40 years old and haven't struck it rich yet, don't lose faith in yourself. Being 40 and not yet wealthy doesn't mean you're destined to remain poor. In fact, getting rich too young isn't always a good thing. Young people who come into money quickly often fall into arrogance and bad habits. Without self-discipline, those habits can become their downfall. If you want to build real wealth, stop thinking about earning a paycheck as your ultimate goal. This might sound controversial, but it will change your perspective. A paycheck is simply a way for others to manage you. It's like a type of feed from employers. Accepting the concept of a paycheck can leave a deep mark on your mindset, shaping how you view work and money. Universities don't train million-dollar entrepreneurs. They train employees who make $50,000 a year. A paycheck won't make you rich. It's designed to keep you alive, not thriving. That doesn't mean you should quit your job, but you need to realize that every dollar you earn isn't just a gift from your boss. It's a reflection of the value you bring to society. If you want to earn more, you need to move beyond the idea of just earning a paycheck. Start asking yourself, how can I create value beyond my salary? The more value you generate for others, the greater your potential to build significant wealth. If you live for 1 year, you'll gain 1 year of life experience as an average person. But if in that year you read The Psychology of Money, you'll gain countless years of financial wisdom distilled into a single book. This book delves into the intricate relationship between people and money, focusing on the psychological factors that shape our financial decisions. Through 20 concise chapters, the author blends historical anecdotes with practical advice, emphasizing that financial success is not just about knowledge, but also about our behavior and mindset toward money. It offers valuable insights into how we think about wealth, risk, and achievement. This book is perfect for anyone, even if you have zero background in finance. If you're ready to transform your financial future, consider investing in this book. People who start with nothing and still manage to climb the ladder to become small business owners often understand a variety of ways to raise capital. While there are over 30 methods to do this, most people are familiar with just 4 main approaches. The first and most common method is borrowing. This involves leveraging assets like your home or car as collateral to secure a loan from a bank or borrowing money from friends and family. About 90% of people use this method to fund their ventures. However, this is known as debt financing, which carries significant risk. If the business fails, the bank or creditors can seize your assets, and strained relationships with loved ones may follow. The second method is equity financing. Here you create a business plan and pitch it to potential investors. For instance, if you have a plan to turn $200,000 into $1 million, you sell a 20% stake in your company for $200,000. If the business succeeds, you not only generate profits but also return the investor's capital plus a share of the earnings. The advantage? Even if the business fails, the investor takes the financial loss, not you. Plus, you may still earn a salary while running the business, with no debt to repay. The third method is what can be called the lottery mindset. You break your $1 million project into smaller, more affordable parts, such as 1 million units priced at $1 each. By selling these units, you raise the $1 million up front. To incentivize buyers, you distribute some of the money as prizes, similar to a lottery. For example, one lucky buyer might win a significant reward, while you still retain the majority of the capital to fund your business. The fourth method involves selling rights to your future income. In this model, you offer investors a portion of your project's future revenue in exchange for upfront funding. For instance, you could sell a percentage of the income you expect to generate over the next 10 or 20 years. This allows you to access the cash you need now without taking on traditional debt. Most people struggle financially because they only think about borrowing from banks or dipping into their savings. But the key to success lies in learning how to raise capital creatively. Beyond banks, you can seek funding from investors, suppliers, or even customers. It's not that we're living in a time where making money is hard. It's that you may not have found the right method for yourself yet. Why is it that some people work tirelessly every day just to scrape by, while others seem to live comfortably without even having a job? Where does their money come from? The answer lies in understanding the relationship between ourselves and money. Many of us work hard, but without knowing how to manage what we earn, it slips through our fingers like sand. There's a book that you might choose not to read, but if you do, keep it to yourself. The Psychology of Money. This book dives into the complicated relationship between people and money, focusing on the psychological factors that shape our financial decisions. Through 20 easy-to-read chapters, the author combines historical stories with actionable advice, offering valuable insights into how we think about money, handle risks, and measure success. This book is perfect for anyone, even if you have zero background in finance. The nightclub proves you can profit from someone else's wife. Uber shows you can build wealth using other people's cars. Banks grow rich by managing other people's money. Airbnb makes money from properties they don't own. Making money isn't about working harder. It's about leveraging resources. Relying only on physical labor limits your earnings. True wealth comes when you learn how to use existing resources efficiently. If this idea isn't clear, let me share a story. A young man working as a car salesman sold his first car and excitedly asked his wealthy father, "Should I use my commission to treat my co-workers to a meal?" His father firmly replied, "Absolutely not. Instead, take the customer who bought the car out for dinner. Treating co-workers won't get you anywhere, but building a relationship with someone important might." The son followed his father's advice. Less than a month later, the same customer returned and bought an expensive sports car, earning him a $10,000 commission. Again, he asked his father, "Should I take the customer out for another meal?" The father shook his head and said, "Prepare an envelope with an $8,000 check and give it to her." Shocked, the son protested, "That's way too much," but he did it anyway. A few days later, the woman came back, this time bringing 2 friends. Each bought a sports car, and the young man made $20,000 in commission. He finally understood the lesson. From that point on, every time the woman referred a new customer, he gave her half of his commission and always sent thoughtful gifts. Within a year, he made over $200,000. The most valuable asset isn't money. It's the mindset that earns respect and influence. Why don't you have a strong network? Because you lack boldness. You stay in your comfort zone, interacting only with those on your level or lower. You hesitate to approach powerful or successful people, unsure of how to connect. People like this, no matter how hard they work, often find themselves stuck in the same place. Why do the wealthy embrace debt, while the poor fear it? Let me tell you a story that explains it all. In a small town where nearly everyone was struggling with debt, a wealthy businessman arrived and checked into a local hotel. He placed $1,000 in cash on the counter and told the hotel owner to find him a suitable room. Then, he went upstairs to take a look. The moment the businessman went upstairs, the hotel owner grabbed the $1,000 and rushed next door to pay off his debt to the butcher. The butcher, now with cash in hand, used it to settle his bill with the cattle rancher. The rancher, relieved, paid off his debt to the feed supplier. The feed supplier then used the money to pay the truck driver who had been delivering goods for her. Finally, the truck driver took the cash and went straight to the hotel to settle his unpaid lodging bill. Moments later, the wealthy businessman came back downstairs and said, "None of the rooms work for me. I'll take my money and leave." He picked up his $1,000 and walked out the door. By the end of the day, no one in town had made anything new, and no one had more money than before, yet all the debts were cleared. This story illustrates the power of circulating money. It's not about having more, it's about keeping money moving to create opportunities for financial problems to solve themselves. The truth is, we don't live in a time where making money is impossible. The challenge is finding the right method that works for you. Why do some people work tirelessly just to scrape by while others seem to live comfortably without a traditional job? Where does their money come from? The key lies in understanding our relationship with money. Many of us work hard, but without proper money management, it slips through our fingers like sand. There's a book that breaks this down in a way anyone can understand: The Psychology of Money. This book explores how our mindset and habits shape our financial decisions. Through 20 easy-to-read chapters, the author combines real-life stories with practical insights on managing money, handling risk, and defining success. Even if you have zero background in finance, this book can change the way you think about money.
A father once told his son, "Use money to test a woman. Use women to test a man." People who often post pictures of their meals on social media usually belong to the lower class, inexperienced and untouched by the deeper layers of life. Those who post travel photos are typically in the middle class. They've just managed to solve their basic needs for food and clothing. The truly wealthy, when raising their children, teach them a deep understanding of human nature. Meanwhile, the poor focus on stuffing their kids with technical skills, as if polishing a blank canvas. The son listened carefully to every word. Later, when he was admitted to Harvard, his father didn't boast online or throw a lavish party. He simply invited the grandparents over for a quiet family dinner. After graduation, the son started his own business, quickly earning millions, buying a house and a car. Yet whenever he came home for the holidays, his father would still tell neighbors and relatives, "The house and car are all on loans. Every month, he struggles to pay the bills. Life is hard." One day, frustrated, the son asked, "Dad, why?" Other fathers brag when their kids succeed. "Why are you always so humble? Aren't you proud of me?" The father sighed and replied, "Son, it doesn't matter how I feel. But you must remember, human hearts are complicated. When you're poor, no one cares about you. When you're rich, even distant relatives will come looking for you. Relatives may wish you well, but deep down, they don't want you to be better than them. In this world, only your parents truly celebrate your success without envy. You've become outstanding, but not everyone your age has. The more you rise, the easier it is to make others resent you. Some will speak badly behind your back. Some may come asking for favors or money. Being humble isn't just good manners, it's a way to protect yourself. Hearing this, the son finally understood. Mastering human nature is more important than celebrating personal victories. In life, when you're always prepared and stay alert, nothing can truly harm you. Most people who get hurt, whether in business, friendship, or even family, don't lose because they lack skill. They lose because they don't fully understand human nature and the quiet power plays happening around them. If you feel like people push you around or take advantage of you, you're not alone. But you can become stronger, sharper, and more strategic. One book I strongly recommend is The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. It's not just a book about being powerful, it's a book about recognizing hidden power all around you. It digs deep into history, revealing how kings, queens, CEOs, and generals navigated human nature for centuries. It's been banned in some prisons for being too dangerous. But for those who know how to wield its wisdom carefully, it becomes a quiet shield against manipulation and betrayal. The second biggest scam in the world, driving schools. They say one of the world's biggest hidden scams is the driving school business, not because of the tuition fees, but because that's not where they really make their money. Mr. Walker owned a small private driving school, but instead of charging students the usual $800 fee, he offered free lessons and even promised each student a $200 bonus upon completion. The crazy part? After the campaign, he didn't lose money. He made 80 times more than what he'd make from tuition alone, shaking up the whole local driving school industry. At that time, competition was brutal. Even slashing prices to $600 wasn't enough to attract students. One evening, Mr. Walker met Professor Miller, a seasoned business strategist. Professor Miller said, "In business, there are at least 27 ways to profit. Why are you only thinking about tuition? If you follow my method, you'll make 80 times more." Here was the plan. First, announce that driving lessons are completely free. However, each student must put down a $1,000 refundable safety deposit. This deposit will be returned after 1 year if the student drives safely without getting more than 2 traffic violations. As a bonus, safe drivers would also receive an additional $200 cash reward. Mr. Walker hesitated. "But what about students who can't afford $1,000 up front?" Professor Miller smiled. "That's simple. Partner with a finance company. Offer an installment plan. Students can borrow the $1,000 and pay it back over 10 months, just about $110 a month, including a small interest fee." Mr. Walker then asked, "How do I track whether students have traffic violations?" Professor Miller replied, "Require all students to purchase their car insurance through your partner agencies. Insurance companies can track driving records and pay you a referral commission." He added, "Think about it. Students get free lessons, a chance at a $200 reward, and easy payment plans. They'll be lining up to register." Hearing this, Mr. Walker was fired up. But Professor Miller wasn't finished. "There's even more," he said. "Partner with local car dealerships and banks. Tell your students that elsewhere they'd need a 20 to 30% down payment to buy a car, but through your partnerships, they can get zero down financing and drive away the same day they get their license." Mr. Walker asked, "But where's my profit in that?" Professor Miller explained, "You have to stop thinking about just selling a product. Real money comes from the strategy. In services, you earn from deposits, memberships, and referral commissions. In sales, you profit from financing deals, ongoing fees, and controlling the supply chain." Mr. Walker listened carefully. "I've been teaching driving for over 15 years, he said, "but I never thought about it like this." Professor Miller smiled. "Making money," he said, "isn't hard if you design the right system. The money will find you." People who start with nothing and still manage to rise from the bottom to become small business owners all understand one thing. There are dozens of ways to raise capital, but most people only know about 4 of them. The first is the debt mindset. This is when you borrow money by leveraging assets you already own, like your car or your house, as collateral. You also tap into your network of friends and family to scrape together enough to start your business, let's say $150,000. Today, 90% of new entrepreneurs take this route. But this is what we call debt-based financing. If your business fails, you're on the hook. The bank or lenders can seize your assets, and personal relationships can be damaged, sometimes permanently. The second is the equity mindset. Here, you create a solid business plan and pitch your idea to investors. You confidently ask for $30,000 in exchange for 20% equity in your company, implying your business is valued at $150,000. If the business succeeds, you can generate revenue, pay your investors back generously, and still retain majority ownership. If the business fails, investors lose their money, not you. You owe nothing. You might even get a salary during the startup phase and have the chance to move on to your next idea without financial baggage. The third is the lottery ticket mindset. In this approach, you break your business project into micro-shares, let's say 10 million pieces at $1 each, and publicly offer them. People buy in, thinking it's a low-risk, high-reward opportunity. You quickly raise $5 million. You then use part of that to run a prize-based reward system, similar to a sweepstakes, where the prize structure is fully customizable. This creates buzz while maintaining your capital. The fourth is the income rights model. Instead of selling equity, you sell a share of your future income from the project. In other words, you raise money upfront today by offering investors a cut of your business's earnings over the next 10 or 20 years. You're trading time for capital, pulling decades of future income into the present to build faster. The reality is, many people struggle with money not because they lack drive or ideas, but because they don't have a clear capital raising strategy. Most people only know how to go to the bank, but in truth, there are 30 different capital raising models, and they include not just banks, but also investors, suppliers, even your future customers. The question is, why don't more people know this? Because most people were never taught to think about money in strategic, multidimensional ways. They were taught to earn, spend, save, maybe borrow, but not to understand money as a psychological game where behavior, perception, and timing matter more than formulas. And if that sounds like you, if you've ever felt like your money disappears no matter how hard you work, if financial freedom feels distant even when you're doing all the right things, then maybe what you need isn't just another budgeting app. Maybe what you need is to think differently. That's why I strongly recommend staying up late to read this book, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Whose money is the easiest to earn? Seniors worried about their health, parents anxious over their children's education, men chasing beauty, women chasing beauty for themselves, lazy people looking for shortcuts, lonely souls spoiling their pets. If you want to succeed in business, remember this golden rule. The elderly fear illness, kids fear ignorance, men fear failure, and women fear aging. An old saying goes, the fastest way to build a fortune, find the soft spot in human nature. One day, the son of a wealthy woman asked, "Mom, a client referred me a project. I'm making $100,000 from it. Should I give them a $5,000 cut or bump it up to $7,000? The mother didn't hesitate. Make it 40-60. You keep 40, give them 60. The son was stunned. But won't we lose out if I give them that much? She smiled and told him a story. There was once a simpleton in a village. People would hand him a choice, a 1-cent coin or a 5-cent coin. He'd always pick the 1 cent. Everyone laughed at how dumb he was. More and more people came just to mess with him, offering the same deal. But here's the twist. If he'd ever chosen the 5 cents, the game would have ended. That fool made more money being laughed at than he ever could have by being smart just once. The son's eyes widened in understanding. He followed his mother's advice, giving the client 60%, $60,000. Not long after, the same client brought him another project. This time he made $200,000. In the end, the most powerful asset in business isn't cash or connections, it's your mindset. Without sharp thinking, even the biggest opportunities slip through your fingers. And that's the part most people overlook. We spend years grinding away, chasing deals, making small gains, without ever realizing that the real game is being played in our minds. The difference between those who stay stuck and those who break through, it's not luck, it's not even hard work. It's understanding how human nature and psychology shape every financial decision we make. If you've ever felt like you're working tirelessly yet not getting ahead, if your hard-earned money keeps slipping through your fingers, if you sense deep down that something needs to change but you're not sure what, then I can't recommend this enough. Stay up late tonight and dive into The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. This book uncovers the invisible threads that tie human behavior to money, the real reasons why some people build lasting wealth while others struggle despite their best efforts. One day, a wealthy father gave his child some allowance and asked, "Do you want to grow up to be rich or poor?" The child quickly answered, "I want to be rich." The father smiled and handed over the money. Then he asked, "Now that you have some money, what do you plan to do with it?" The child said, "I'm going to spend it on whatever I want." The father gently replied, "If you do that, you might actually end up poor, not rich. You see, people who stay poor tend to spend everything they have." He then brought out 5 jars and said, "Let me teach you how to manage your money wisely. The first jar is for giving 10% of what you have. If I give you $100, 10% is $10. This money goes to God like donating to your church or a charity. When you give, you open yourself up to blessings. The second jar is for charity. This is where you save money to help people in need. It reminds you to be kind and generous. The third jar is for savings. Even if you only save $1, that's okay. The important thing is to build the habit. Over time, your savings will grow. The fourth jar is for investing. A lot of parents give their kids allowance, but don't teach them how to manage it. That's why kids often spend all their money by Friday and have nothing left for the weekend. But if you learn to invest, even something simple like lending money to your friends and charging a small fee, you'll grow your money. Pretty soon, your friends might even bring their friends to borrow from you. By the time you graduate, you'll have built up real assets, while others might be drowning in debt. The fifth jar is for spending. Once you've planned out your money, the rest is yours to enjoy guilt-free. The key is having a plan. When you manage your money well, that's how you build real wealth. The father in the story understood something powerful. Money isn't the goal, it's just a tool. And if you don't know how to use that tool, it will end up controlling you. The boy learned, give to open doors of opportunity, save to build a strong foundation, and invest to unlock real growth. It sounds simple, but the truth is many adults never actually learn how to do this properly. That's why so many people earn money but don't know how to keep it or how to make it grow. Here's the thing, financial education should start as early as possible. But what if you never learned it as a kid? No worries. The most important thing is to start right now. I used to struggle with the question, how do I turn these smart money principles into a real system in my own life? The answer came when I read I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. This isn't just another theory-heavy book. It's a step-by-step financial playbook that shows you how to automate your savings and investments so your money works even when you're not paying attention. Avoid the spending traps that 90% of people fall into. Build a strong, simple financial system that's easy to maintain. If you're a parent or just someone who's looking for real financial stability, this book won't just help you, it will also help you set a solid example for your kids. Because children don't just learn from what we say, they learn from how we actually live. Start your transformation today for yourself and for the next generation.
Can you imagine a taxi driver wiping out $50,000 of debt and stacking up over $1 million, all within a single year? Sounds far-fetched, right? But after hearing Mike's journey, you might start to see money in a whole new light. Mike was 30 when he first started driving a cab in New York City. For 15 years, he hustled day and night, scraping together just enough to get by. Deep down, he always dreamed of something more, but no matter how hard he pushed, he stayed stuck. Then came the breaking point. A bad investment sank him into $50,000 of crushing debt. Exhausted and discouraged, Mike kept driving, hanging on by a thread. One afternoon, a well-dressed woman stepped into his cab. Mike, being his usual chatty self, opened up about his struggles. After listening closely, she asked, "How much do you usually make in a day?" Mike shrugged. "On a good day with a few airport runs, maybe more, but most days, around $200. She smiled and said, "I can show you how to make $500 to $1,000 a day. Interested?" Mike was skeptical, but her next words hit like a jolt. She said, "Focus only on airport trips. Push for 10 runs a day, and you'll hit those numbers easily." Mike frowned. "But how can I make sure people are always going to the airport?" Her answer was simple and brilliant. Partnerships. Team up with major hotels. Their guests are constantly heading to the airport. Build good relationships with the staff, and when someone needs a ride, they'll call you directly. Offer them 20% of the fare. You keep the rest. They'll love the extra cash, and you'll have a steady stream of customers every day. Mike was intrigued, but worried. "That's a lot for one person to handle," she laughed. "Think bigger. Build a team. Recruit 10 drivers who specialize in airport runs. Let them handle the rides while you manage the business. Pay them 70% and keep 30% for yourself." Then she added, "If you're used to $200 a day, and I help you hit $500, $1,000, or even more, why hold back?" A month later, Mike called her back, his voice shaking with excitement. "You were right. I followed your plan, and now I'm making over $2,000 a day." She laughed softly. Money isn't mysterious. Once you know how to build a smart system, it flows naturally. Mike's story drives home one truth. Success isn't just about grinding harder. It's about working smarter. For 15 years, Mike did everything right. He worked hard, stayed loyal, kept his head down, and still wound up deep in debt. His breakthrough didn't come from more effort. It came from a new approach. And that's the difference between staying stuck and leveling up. It's not just effort, it's strategy. If Mike's story feels familiar, if you're stuck in the same endless hustle, it's not because you're failing. It's because the system you're following is broken. That's why there's a book I highly recommend, I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. It's not about skipping lattes or pinching pennies. It's a practical, proven system that teaches you how to set your finances on autopilot, adopt the mindset that wealthy people use to create real leverage, and build systems that break the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck.
Uber built an empire using other people's cars. Banks grow rich by handling other people's money. Nightclubs make money by entertaining people with someone else's wife. Airbnb profits from other people's homes. Earning money is about leveraging resources, not exhausting your own efforts. The money you make solely through hard labor is limited. Only when you learn how to utilize others' resources can you truly build wealth. If you want to make more money but don't know how, listen to the following story. It might open your eyes. After completing his term, the former president returned to his private residence, drawing significant attention from both the media and the public. Seeing an opportunity, his neighbor decided to list his house for sale, dramatically increasing the asking price, hoping to capitalize on the prestige of living next to such a high-profile figure. However, his excitement soon faded. Despite the property's prime location, potential buyers were hesitant, concerned about heightened security measures and the constant scrutiny that came with living next to a former president. After nearly a year with no offers, he reluctantly sold the house at a significantly reduced price to a savvy businessman. The businessman quickly identified the property's potential and transformed it into a private preschool. Leveraging its proximity to the president's security detail, he marketed it as the safest preschool in the country. The clever strategy attracted numerous wealthy families eager to enroll their children, turning the preschool into a highly profitable venture. But the story doesn't end there. The businessman's son, working as a car salesman, sold his first car and excitedly asked his father when he got home, "Should I use my commission to treat my coworkers to a meal?" His wealthy father replied, "Absolutely not. Instead, invite the customer who bought the car out for a meal. Treating coworkers won't get you anywhere, but building a connection with someone important might." The son followed his father's advice. Less than a month later, the same customer returned to purchase an expensive sports car, earning the young salesman a $10,000 commission. He asked his father again, "Should I take this customer out for another meal?" The father shook his head and said, "Prepare an envelope with an $8,000 check and give it to her." The son complained, "That's way too much," but he still did as his father suggested. A few days later, the woman returned, bringing two friends with her. Each bought a sports car, earning the young man a total of $20,000 in commission. The young man finally understood the lesson. From that point on, every time the woman referred a friend to him, he gave her half of his commission and prepared thoughtful gifts for her as a token of gratitude. In less than a year, the young salesman earned over $200,000. The most valuable asset in this world isn't money. It's the mindset that earns the admiration of others. So why don't you have a wide network of connections? It's because you lack boldness. You only associate with people on your level or lower, avoiding those in positions of power or influence, unsure of how to approach them. People like this, no matter how hard they try, often find themselves stuck in the same place. And that's the real kicker. Wealth doesn't come from working harder. It comes from playing smarter. Why do the world's best smartphones feel outdated after just 2 years? In California, there's a light bulb that's been glowing for over 120 years, and it's still shining today. Funny thing is, the company that made it went bankrupt nearly a century ago. Why? Because they built it too well. No one ever needed a replacement, so they eventually ran out of customers. Smart business owners understand this. Make something too perfect, and you might kill your own business. Let me explain with a story. At a busy market, a vendor was selling chili peppers. A customer asked, "Are these spicy?" It was a tough question. If he said yes, he might scare off those who don't like spice. If he said no, spice lovers would walk away. So he gave a clever answer. The darker ones are spicy, the lighter ones aren't. The customer picked what they liked and left happy. Another shopper came along and asked the same question. This time, the vendor said, "The longer ones are spicy, the shorter ones aren't." Then a third customer asked. The vendor replied, "The firm ones are spicy, the soft ones aren't." In reality, the soft ones had just been sitting in the sun too long. But thanks to his quick thinking, he sold every pepper. Great sellers don't just solve problems, they reframe them so the problem disappears. In 2008, a man was struggling to sell fish tanks. No one was buying, and his business was dying. Then he had an idea. He bought 500 goldfish and asked a local fisherman to release them into a nearby river. The fisherman was puzzled, but the man paid him anyway. Soon word spread. Locals rushed to the river, hoping to catch a goldfish. Those who caught one needed a tank. Others, wanting to join the fun, bought tanks in advance. Even when he raised prices, the tanks kept selling out. He wasn't just selling aquariums, he was selling opportunity. Think about a whole watermelon on a grocery shelf for $3. It just sits there. Cut it in half, add a cheap plastic spoon, suddenly it's a $3 snack, and it sells out. The spoon isn't special. The convenience is what sells. Money doesn't flow to the best products. It flows to the ones people feel they need. Making money isn't as hard as people think. The real challenge is how you think about it. Why do some people quit their jobs and still earn six figures, while others work 9 to 5 and barely get by? It comes down to mindset. If you're curious about this shift in thinking, check out I Will Teach You to Be Rich by self-made millionaire Ramit Sethi. This book isn't just about saving or budgeting, it's about seeing money differently and making it work for you. If managing money feels overwhelming or debt keeps pulling you down, it's likely because you don't have a clear plan. Ramit breaks it all down with simple, practical steps to build a strategy. Automate your savings and grow your income. The fastest way to make more money? Change how you think about it. It only takes 5 seconds to manipulate someone. By the time you finish hearing this, you might get chills and maybe even break a cold sweat. Some people use these tactics to never run out of romantic partners. Some use them to effortlessly win over investors. Others use them to land big business deals. Pay attention to these examples, and you'll start to see how psychological manipulation really works. Example 1. Ever been stuck next to someone who just won't stop talking? You want to cut in, but there's no opening. Try this. Accidentally drop something on the floor. When you bend down to pick it up, that brief pause gives you a natural window to jump into the conversation. It's an interruption, but it doesn't feel like one. Example 2. If you overhear someone talking behind your back, quietly start recording with your phone. Then send that audio clip to the group chat and write, "Someone sent me this. Thought I'd share so we're all aware." The gossiper won't know who exposed them. They'll start doubting each other, tension builds, and suddenly the group falls apart from the inside. Classic divide and conquer. Example 3. Want to know if a guy secretly likes you? Tell a joke. When everyone laughs, watch who he looks at first. People naturally glance at the person they're most attracted to when they're happy. If he looks at you, bingo. This is emotional reading, a subtle form of psychological steering. Example 4. Imagine someone says, "There's this college girl who works at a nightclub after class." Your mind might instantly jump to a negative assumption. Now flip the phrasing. Even though she works nights at a club to pay the bills, she still shows up for college classes every day. Suddenly, she sounds strong, determined, admirable. Here's the trick. If you want to present something in a positive light, start with the negative. If you want to frame something negatively, start with the positive. This is how emotional framing works. Psychological manipulation targets two things, emotion and the subconscious. At its core, manipulation bypasses logic. It breaks through your mental guardrails and speaks directly to your instincts. It puts your brain in a low-energy state, mentally blank, emotionally open, then quietly inserts its own logic into your thinking. And suddenly, you're seeing the world through someone else's lens. So if you've ever felt too nice, too honest, too trusting, if you've been used, betrayed, or always find yourself struggling to get ahead, it's not because you're weak, it's because you don't understand how the human mind works. That's exactly what How to Read People Like a Book by Patrick King reveals. This isn't just a book, it's a manual for decoding the hidden emotional currents behind every conversation, gesture, and glance. You'll learn how to spot manipulation before it happens, read unspoken cues with laser precision, and understand the real thoughts behind people's words. Whether you want to protect yourself from deceit, influence others ethically, or simply gain a deeper edge in social and professional settings, this book gives you the tools. Once you understand the human psyche, you stop reacting and start directing. My wife recently sold a luxury home and earned a $7,000 commission. When she got home, she said she wanted to treat her coworkers to a nice meal. I told her, "You don't need to treat your coworkers. Instead, take your client out to dinner." A few days later, that same client referred another buyer to my wife. She closed another deal and made $12,000 in commission. This time, my wife asked, "Should I take this new client out for a meal too?" I shook my head and said, "Skip the dinner. Just give them a thank you envelope with the $6,000. She hesitated. $6,000 feels like a lot just for a gift. But she did it anyway. A few days later, that client brought in 2 more friends. Each of them bought a home. My wife earned another $24,000 in commission. My cousin works at a factory. Every payday, he gives his manager a pack of good cigarettes. Not long after, he was promoted to a management position at a new facility. His salary doubled. Whenever I take my car for maintenance, I bring a few cans of cold soda for the mechanic. After a few visits, he started giving me quiet advice. Which repairs were unnecessary, what to avoid, saving me hundreds of dollars. At my office, parking is a nightmare. Every morning, I give the security guard a small bag of trail mix. Ever since then, even during peak hours, my car always has a spot. Coworkers think it's a strange coincidence. My nephew isn't the best communicator. I told him, every time you visit your boss, bring 2 bottles of Macallan whiskey. Eventually, his boss gave him a small project to lead. He made $40,000 from it. He gave $24,000 of that back to his boss as a gesture of gratitude. That year, something clicked for him. He kept giving, kept following the boss's lead. Within just a year, he earned $400,000. To thank his boss, he offered to return 60% of his earnings. The boss declined, so he gave the money to the boss's parents instead. From then on, he became the most trusted and valued person in the company. The next year, he made $650,000. It took the boss 35 years to build his network and career. My nephew grasped it in less than 2. Looking back, it almost feels like the boss was working for him. One of the most underrated secrets to success is the mindset around strategic generosity. It's an open secret, but only a few truly understand the art behind it. In an age where emotional intelligence often outweighs raw intellect, the most successful people are often masters at reading and influencing human psychology. That's what most people miss. They treat success like a numbers game. Work harder, hustle more, keep pushing. But here's the truth. You can work hard your whole life and still be overlooked. If you don't understand people, because the game isn't just about what you do, it's about who you influence, how you connect, and when you make the move. What he saw stunned him. No guards, no defenses. The gates wide open, just a handful of people quietly sweeping, and the haunting sound of Zhuge Liang's zither echoing through the empty streets. Sima Yi stopped cold. He didn't dare attack. Why? Because he knew Zhuge Liang's reputation. The man was a master of deception, and Sima Yi thought, if the city looks undefended and Zhuge Liang is acting this calm, there must be an ambush waiting inside. If we charge in, we could all be slaughtered, so he ordered a retreat. When Zhuge Liang saw the enemy pull back, he finally let out a sigh of relief and whispered, "Heaven is on my side." But the story doesn't end there. When Sima Yi returned, his father confronted him. "You had 150,000 troops. Why did you retreat from an empty city?" Sima Yi simply replied, "I lost to Zhuge Liang because fate wasn't on my side." But deep down, he knew the truth. Even if he had attacked and killed Zhuge Liang, it wouldn't have helped him politically. Why? Because Zhuge Liang was the main reason the royal court kept Sima Yi around. If Zhuge Liang died, the war would end, and so would Sima Yi's usefulness. Worse, he might be seen as a threat and removed. So Sima Yi made a calculated decision. He chose not to win today in order to survive and win tomorrow. That's true strategic genius, not just knowing when to fight, but when not to. This legendary story became known as the empty city stratagem. It's been passed down through generations, not just as a tale of clever trickery, but as a lesson in calm under pressure, long-term thinking, and psychological warfare. One man won by keeping his cool in the face of overwhelming danger. The other chose restraint over victory because he was playing the long game. Neither drew a sword, yet both came out ahead. And that is the mark of a true strategist. In life, it's the same. There are countless moments when we face impossible situations, moments hanging by a thread, whether in business, relationships, or society. How do we overcome them? In the history of ancient China, there is a timeless classic that holds the answer, The Art of War. This 2,500-year-old masterpiece by Sun Tzu is more than a military manual. It's a strategic guide for navigating the battles of everyday life. Whether you're facing ruthless competition in business, dealing with manipulative colleagues or complex negotiations, or trying to stay calm and sharp while chaos swirls around you, The Art of War teaches you how to win without fighting, influence without forcing, and lead without shouting. Just like Zhuge Liang did, alone on a city wall, staring down an army 60 times larger than his, yet still in control. This book shows you how strategy and calm can turn the tide. Sun Tzu's core principle is this: all warfare is based on deception. But in today's world, that means understanding perception, timing, and leverage. Not manipulation, but mastery. In a society that pressures you to react fast, The Art of War teaches you to respond with precision, to move not from fear, but from clarity.
People in the lowest class earn money through physical labor. People in the middle class earn money through their intellect. People in the highest class earn money through resources and power. Once you fully understand this, money will naturally flow into your pockets. The son of a wealthy businessman was introduced to a project and managed to earn $200,000 from it. Afterward, he asked his father whether he should give $30,000 or $50,000 to the person who had referred him to the opportunity. Hearing this, the businessman said, "Split it 4-6, you keep 4, and they get 6. Shocked, the son protested, "No way, no way. If I do that, I'll barely have anything left." The businessman smiled and shared a story. Once, there was a beggar who didn't understand the value of money. Someone offered him a 5-cent coin, and a 50-cent coin, telling him to choose. Without hesitation, he always picked the 5-cent coin. Every time, onlookers would burst into laughter at his apparent foolishness. More and more people came to mock him, giving him the same choice, and each time he would take the smaller coin, becoming the butt of their jokes. But only that foolish beggar knew that, if he ever chose the larger coin, no one would return to give him money anymore. Hearing this, the son suddenly felt enlightened. Remember, wealth comes from skill, not physical labor. Everything should be measured and analyzed from a perspective of benefits. Only then will money flow continuously to you. So why is it that some people hardly seem to work yet live comfortably, while others toil day and night, but struggle to make ends meet? The answer lies in understanding the relationship between ourselves and money. Many of us simply work and earn without fully grasping how to manage our earnings, allowing the money we make to slip through our fingers. If you find yourself in this situation, I highly recommend staying up late to read The Psychology of Money. This book explores the complex relationship between people and money, focusing on the psychological factors that influence our financial decisions. Through 20 concise chapters, the author blends historical anecdotes with practical advice, offering valuable insights into how we perceive money, manage risk, and define success. And the good news is, this book is suited for anyone, even those with no prior knowledge of finance. If you're ready to change your financial future, invest in this book.
Sometimes the best way to win is to let them think you've lost. Listen to the following story and you will understand why. A long time ago in the Wild West, a humble rancher was falsely accused of cattle rustling by a corrupt sheriff. According to town law, those sentenced to hang were given one last chance, a draw to determine their fate. There were supposed to be 2 slips of paper, one marked pardon and the other hang. But a ruthless land baron, who wanted the rancher's land for himself, bribed the sheriff to rig the draw. Instead of one pardon and one hang, both slips were marked hang, sealing the rancher's fate. The rancher's daughter discovered the scheme and was heartbroken, believing there was no way to save him. But when she told her father, he just smiled and said there was still a chance. On the day of judgment, the rancher reached into the hat, picked a slip, and, before anyone could stop him, swallowed it whole. Then he calmly said he had accepted his fate. The sheriff had no choice but to check the remaining slip. When they unfolded it, they saw it read, hang. But if that was hang, then the slip the rancher had swallowed must have been pardon. The corrupt sheriff couldn't expose his own deception, so he had no choice but to let the rancher go free. When you step into a game, a negotiation, or a deal knowing your opponent's weaknesses, you've already won 50% of the battle. Those who are truly skilled and strategic always observe their opponents before making a move, reading them like an open book to secure victory. If you find yourself too honest, lacking strategic thinking, and often at a disadvantage in negotiations, then Read People Like a Book is for you. This book will teach you how to become a mind reader and build deep connections. Using psychological principles, the author will guide you on how to tap into someone's mind without them even realizing it. The book is written in a simple, easy-to-understand way, making it accessible even if you have no background in psychology. Trusted by entrepreneurs and millionaires, this book has been applied successfully in business and everyday life. If you want to gain the upper hand in any interaction.
The billionaire and his mistress had just left a hotel. On the way back to the office, she suddenly said she wanted a new car and a designer handbag. The billionaire paused for a moment, then said, "I'll give you $20,000, but not for a car or a handbag. Let's open a BBQ restaurant." She frowned. "Do I look like someone who runs a BBQ place?" He smiled. "If the business goes well, the house and the car will come. Trust me." Then he took her into a small, struggling BBQ joint on the side of the road. He turned to the owner and asked, "Ever thought about selling this place?" The owner hesitated. "I'd need at least $300,000 to let it go." Without blinking, the billionaire said, "I'll give you $20,000 up front for 1 month. If the business turns around in 30 days, I'll pay the full $300,000. If not, keep the $20,000 as a rental fee for the month." The owner agreed. The billionaire turned to his mistress. "The place is yours now. Trust me, you'll have that car and house soon enough." Step 1. He instructed her to stack all kinds of bottled drinks right at the entrance. Anyone walking by could reach in and grab as many as they could hold in one hand, for free. Grab 2 bottles, enjoy 2 for free. 5 bottles, take 5. Even people who didn't have time to eat could grab a drink and come back later, or leave their drinks at the shop to pick up when they returned. That way, no one walking past will be able to ignore us, he said. She looked at him, surprised by the idea. Step 2. Of course, 1 handful of drinks won't satisfy most people. So here's the trick. Tell them if they post a video of themselves grabbing drinks on social media, they get to try again. Free marketing, powered by the crowd. Still doubtful, she asked, "But what if they never actually come back to eat?" Step 3, he continued. You call them and say, "Anyone who dines here gets a chance to win a brand new BMW." Seriously? A BMW just for eating BBQ? Won't we lose money? He chuckled and broke it down. Set the rule. Only customers who spend $200 or more qualify for the raffle, and we only draw a winner once 4,000 people have entered. That way, they'll bring friends. Some will come back multiple times just to increase their chances. Then he did the math. 4,000 diners x $200, $800,000 in revenue. Assuming a 60% profit margin, that's $480,000 in profit. Subtract $100,000 for the BMW, and we still have $380,000. Pay the owner his $300,000, and you walk away with $80,000 in capital. She stared at him, amazed. "How are you this smart?" He smiled. "Because I understand people. Making money isn't about price gaps anymore. It's about creating the right system." By the end of the first week, foot traffic tripled. The kitchen barely kept up. Locals started calling it the viral BBQ. And that night, after they counted the day's take, she sat in the car, turned to him, and whispered, "This isn't just about food, is it?" He smiled again. "It's never just about food. It's about building systems, about understanding people, about turning money into momentum." Then he handed her a book. Early 1900s, during the post-gold rush era, a clever entrepreneur in Northern California bought a stretch of abandoned land deep in the hills. His plan? Turn it into a sprawling vineyard for winemaking. But first, he had to clear the land. There was a catch, though. The locals in the nearby town were notoriously lazy. Nobody wanted to do hard labor. Even after tripling the wages, he barely got a handful of folks to show up, and most of them just went through the motions, working a little when they felt like it, and napping under trees when they didn't. They figured, this land is worthless. Let the guy waste his money. As planting season drew near, the businessman grew increasingly anxious. But then, something strange happened. One of the workers hit something with his shovel that rang out like metal. Clink. Curious, he quickly pocketed it. But the boss saw what happened. When confronted, the worker denied everything, insisting it was just a rock. At that same moment, another man unearthed a nugget of what looked like real gold and bolted straight down the hill with it. Without missing a beat, the entrepreneur made a bold announcement. "Today's your last day. Everyone gets paid in full. Now leave the property and don't come back." The townspeople were confused, but the glimmer of gold had already burned into their minds. That night, dozens of them snuck back into the hills, digging furiously under moonlight. No more laziness now. The place was alive with the sound of shovels and pickaxes. People fought over patches of dirt like their lives depended on it. The businessman tried to stop them, but he was overwhelmed and eventually collapsed from stress, bedridden for days. Word spread like wildfire. Folks from nearby towns came swarming in, all chasing the promise of buried gold. A job that should have taken months, clearing the hills, was done in just 3 days, but most walked away empty-handed. And just as suddenly as it began, the digging frenzy stopped. That's when the businessman made a miraculous recovery, and he was smiling. Because here's the twist. The gold? He buried it himself. Tiny nuggets, planted just deep enough to be found. It was bait, meant to lure in desperate people to do his work for free. And it worked. His land was fully cleared, ready for planting, but he wasn't done yet. A month later, several of the so-called gold hunters were arrested for trespassing and theft. Some were dragged into court. One man tried to clear his name by handing over a gold nugget, only to find out it was a fake, just gold-plated lead. With no real gold to return and no way to prove his innocence, he was forced to sign a contract of indentured labor to pay off the damages. And he wasn't the only one. One by one, everyone who found gold ended up trapped, signing away years of their lives. In the end, the businessman didn't just get free land clearing, he walked away with a loyal workforce. Many years later, thanks to his booming business, he built roads, bridges, helped transport crops, and the locals saw him as a hero, celebrating him as one of their own. People forgot they had been tricked. At first, they thought he was the fool, but in the end, they were the real suckers. Most people thought they were outsmarting the system. In reality, they were just pawns in someone else's game. That's the part that haunts you, because it doesn't just happen in some dusty old tale.
The billionaire and his mistress had just left a hotel. On the way back to the office, she suddenly said she wanted a new car and a designer handbag. The billionaire paused for a moment, then said, "I'll give you $20,000, but not for a car or a handbag. Let's open a BBQ restaurant." She frowned. "Do I look like someone who runs a BBQ place?" He smiled. "If the business goes well, the house and the car will come. Trust me." Then he took her into a small, struggling BBQ joint on the side of the road. He turned to the owner and asked, "Ever thought about selling this place?" The owner hesitated. "I need at least $300,000 to let it go." Without blinking, the billionaire said, "I'll give you $20,000 up front for 1 month. If the business turns around in 30 days, I'll pay the full $300,000. If not, keep the $20,000 as a rental fee for the month." The owner agreed. The billionaire turned to his mistress. "The place is yours now. Trust me, you'll have that car and house soon enough." Step 1. He instructed her to stack all kinds of bottled drinks right at the entrance. Anyone walking by could reach in and grab as many as they could hold in one hand. For free. Grab 2 bottles, enjoy 2 for free. 5 bottles, take 5. Even people who didn't have time to eat could grab a drink and come back later, or leave their drinks at the shop to pick up when they returned. That way, no one walking past will be able to ignore us, he said. She looked at him, surprised by the idea. Step 2. Of course, one handful of drinks won't satisfy most people, so here's the trick. Tell them if they post a video of themselves grabbing drinks on social media, they get to try again. Free marketing, powered by the crowd. Still doubtful, she asked, "But what if they never actually come back to eat?" Step 3, he continued. You call them and say, "Anyone who dines here gets a chance to win a brand new BMW." Seriously? A BMW just for eating BBQ? Won't we lose money? He chuckled and broke it down. Set the rule. Only customers who spend $200 or more qualify for the raffle, and we only draw a winner once 4,000 people have entered. That way, they'll bring friends. Some will come back multiple times just to increase their chances. Then he did the math. 4,000 diners x $200, $800,000 in revenue. Assuming a 60% profit margin, that's $480,000 in profit. Subtract $100,000 for the BMW, and we still have $380,000. Pay the owner his $300,000, and you walk away with $80,000 in capital. She stared at him, amazed. "How are you this smart?" He smiled. "Because I understand people. Making money isn't about price gaps anymore. It's about creating the right system." By the end of the first week, foot traffic tripled. The kitchen barely kept up. Locals started calling it the viral BBQ. And that night, after they counted the day's take, she sat in the car, turned to him, and whispered, "This isn't just about food, is it?" He smiled again. "It's never just about food. It's about building systems, about understanding people, about turning money into momentum." Then he handed her a book.
Ever wonder why some people can never break free from being just employees, no matter how hard they work? The answer lies in their mindset. The story below might make you break into a cold sweat when you realize why you've been stuck in that same 9-to-5 grind. A young, good-looking guy opened a small fruit shop right outside a residential complex. Business wasn't going well. Frustrated, he decided to put up a sign to sell the place. One day, a wealthy woman pulled up in her luxury car and asked, "How much to take over the shop?" He said, $150,000. She asked, "Why are you selling it?" He replied, "There's a Whole Foods just around the corner. Everyone in the neighborhood shops there instead. I'm barely making enough to cover rent. I'm thinking of giving up and going back to my office job." The woman looked at him and said, "Actually, I've been looking for a location like this. Don't sell. I want to partner with you." Surprised, he asked, "How would that work?" She replied, "You keep running the store. I'll handle all the costs. I'll pay you $15,000 a month. That's $180,000 a year, guaranteed." The guy was thrilled. That was way more than he'd make at an office job. He asked again, "But how exactly would we partner?" She said, "I'll cover all expenses, and any profits above your $15,000 salary will be mine." He agreed immediately. Then the woman explained the next step. "We're going to run a promotion. Every day I want you to roll a cart full of apples out to the front gate and give them away for free. But there's a catch. People have to add your WhatsApp to get the free apple. Each apple costs about $1. By doing this," she continued, "you'll get at least 100 new contacts a day. That's over 3,000 people in less than a month. Once enough people were added, she had him launch a VIP membership program, $40 a month. Members would get exclusive discounts on fruit and free delivery. Most people agreed it was a good deal and convenient. Soon, over 1,000 people signed up. Even before selling a single piece of fruit, he had made $40,000. Every day after that, he just needed to post a new fruit deal in the WhatsApp group. With a rotating selection and daily promos, his store stayed top of mind. His fruit practically sold itself. Some customers even ordered premium fruit delivery. His clientele grew from budget-conscious buyers to upscale customers. That's when the young man finally understood the woman's strategy. "This is genius," he said. "Once people sign up for the membership, they stop going to Whole Foods. They come back to my shop again and again." The woman nodded. "Exactly. You need loyal, repeat customers to make real money. One move, many wins." In the end, they sealed the deal and officially became business partners. Within a month, the shop was booming. Within 3 months, they had expanded into a citywide chain. One day, the young man turned to the woman and asked, "How did you get so good at this?" She smiled knowingly. "The era of competing on price is long gone," she said. "These days, the real game in business is about designing the right model. If you get that part right, money will come, naturally, effortlessly." Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a book. "But earning money is just one part of the equation," she added. "Learning how to manage that money is an entirely different skill, and just as important if you want to stay rich."
One afternoon, Sarah stood in front of her small pop-up shop, arranging her latest collection of trendy t-shirts. As she adjusted the display, a young man named Jake walked by and stopped to look. "How much for this one?" he asked, picking up a black t-shirt. $40, Sarah replied with a smile. Jake raised an eyebrow. $40 for a t-shirt? That's too much. These should be around $5. Sarah frowned. "I paid $10 per shirt just to stock them." Jake chuckled. "Relax. I have a way for you to sell them for $5 each and still make double the profit." Sarah crossed her arms. "All right, I'm listening." Jake leaned in. "At $40 each, most customers will either buy one or walk away without buying anything. But if you tweak your pricing strategy, they'll buy more. Try this. The first shirt stays at $40. The second one drops to $30. The third is $15. And the fourth, just $5. Sarah grabbed her phone. "That's $90 for 4 shirts. Jake nodded. "Yes. If your cost is $10 per shirt, you spend $40 on 4. But you sell them for $90 instead of just $40 if you only sell one. Plus, customers will feel like they're getting a great deal." Sarah's eyes lit up. "That actually makes sense. But how do I convince people to buy 4? Jake grinned. "Give them a reason. If they buy 4, offer a $40 voucher for something useful, like premium laundry detergent or gourmet coffee. They'll feel like they're getting the shirts practically for free, but in reality, you're making money on another product." Sarah clapped her hands. "That's brilliant. More sales, repeat customers, and extra profit. I've never thought of this before." Jake said, "Making money isn't actually hard. If you design the right system, money will find its way to you." The world is changing. Some people don't even have a traditional job but still live an enviable life. Meanwhile, others work tirelessly, yet always struggle financially. It's not always about intelligence. It's about learning the right money-making strategies from those who've mastered them. My advice? Even if you have to stay up late, read this book. I Will Teach You to Be Rich. This book will help you break free from old habits, turn the impossible into possible, and sharpen your financial mindset. It opens the door to a whole new world of opportunities. Many people work hard their whole lives, but never understand a single key concept from this book. Once you read it, you'll start spotting financial opportunities everywhere and discover countless ways to build wealth.
People who achieve great success aren't usually the nice guys. That's just how the world works. The strong make the rules, the weak follow them, and most rules are designed to keep the weak in check. Strategy, power plays, politics, they all revolve around human nature. Think about it. The guys sweating it out on construction sites rarely make the big bucks. The people actually making money, most of them wouldn't even know how to find the site. Those who work don't earn much, and those who earn don't do the work. Decisions are made by outsiders who don't understand the job, while insiders, who know everything, just follow orders. Why? Here's a story that might help you understand. A long time ago, there was a businessman who hired a talented chef named James. They opened a small restaurant together. James didn't invest any money, he just worked in exchange for a share of the profits. To everyone's surprise, the restaurant did great. They opened a few more locations, and the businessman made a lot of money. But James grew bitter. He thought he was the reason for all the success. And yet, in his eyes, he was getting the short end of the stick. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. So one day, James made a move. He laced the food with a laxative. Customers got sick, complaints flooded in, and the restaurant's reputation took a major hit. The businessman had to spend a ton of money fixing the mess. Eventually, he figured out James was behind it. Now, most people would have fired James on the spot, but not this guy. He had a better idea. Instead of letting him go, the businessman promoted James. He made him the restaurant manager. James didn't know the first thing about management. To help him, the businessman assigned 2 brilliant accountants to his team. They were smart, efficient, and handled everything. James didn't have to lift a finger. He had a comfy title, a cushy job, and no real responsibility. And so the years passed, 10 of them. Eventually, James realized he no longer knew how to cook or run a kitchen. He told the businessman he wanted to retire. Before James left, the businessman handed him a check for $50,000 as a parting gift. That's when James broke down and confessed, back then, I was the one who sabotaged the food. I ruined the restaurant's reputation. The businessman didn't say a word. He just smiled and wished James well. So why did the businessman do that? Because James wasn't just some fool. He was a skilled chef. If he'd been fired back then, he could have become a powerful competitor. The businessman knew this. So instead of pushing him out, he gave him a warm seat and let time do the rest. In the end, James wasted 10 prime years of his life sitting comfortably doing nothing, growing rusty. The most effective way to neutralize a threat isn't always confrontation. Sometimes you just have to give someone exactly what they think they want and watch them slowly destroy their own edge. Remember, throughout history, those who achieve massive success were rarely the nice guys. That's just how the world works. Strategy beats sincerity, power outmaneuvers talent, and those who win understand something most people don't. Human nature isn't noble, it's calculated. Many times we don't fail because we're incompetent, but because we haven't studied the game. We walk into battles unarmed, expecting fairness. We confuse kindness for strength and transparency for trust. But in the real world, especially in business, work, and social hierarchies, those illusions can cost you dearly. If you want to uncover what's really going on beneath the surface, how people use manipulation, image, power plays, and silence as weapons, then I strongly recommend reading this book, The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
If you're asking someone for help, don't promise them a reward after the job is done. Instead, offer something before they start. That's how you build trust. When inviting your boss or a senior person to a meal, always send a text first before calling. And don't just text, follow up with a call. When giving a gift, keep it simple and heartfelt. Don't go on about how long it took you to prepare or how much it cost. That only cheapens the gesture. If a friend helps you land a job and you end up making $10,000, don't hesitate to send them $5,000. Trust me. When you're the kind of person who delivers results, opportunities will always find you. When someone compliments you, pass the praise on to others who helped. It shows grace and prevents jealousy. If something can be solved with money, don't pull favors or use connections. During arguments, avoid hurtful words. When parting ways, stay composed and respectful. When dealing with people who don't share your views, it's enough to keep things civil. No need to escalate. Be patient on the outside, but firm on the inside. The smartest people don't compete in public. They work quietly and strategically behind the scenes. Learn to smile even at those you dislike. It's a skill worth mastering. Truly successful people are experts at reading others. Understanding human psychology is the key. Without it, how could anyone build real wealth? They say, if you step into the water, you'd better know how to swim. In life, that means if you want to succeed, you need to understand people. That's what we call social intelligence. Strategy, it's just psychology in disguise. And yet, most people enter the game of life, of business, relationships, negotiation, leadership, completely untrained in the one skill that determines their outcomes, understanding human behavior. We spend years learning technical skills, chasing degrees, memorizing formulas, but no one teaches us how to read a person, how to spot dishonesty behind a smile, how to know when someone's interested or just being polite, how to catch the subtle signs when a deal is going sour before it collapses. That's exactly why Read People Like a Book by Patrick King is a game changer. This isn't another generic self-help book. It's a psychological field guide to decoding people. Through sharp insights and practical breakdowns, it teaches you how to observe micro-expressions, decode tone and pacing, and recognize emotional intent. Not just hear what someone says, but understand what they really mean. If you're an entrepreneur, it'll help you spot manipulation before you're trapped in a bad partnership. If you're in sales, you'll learn to gauge interest before wasting time chasing dead leads. If you lead a team, you'll recognize who's loyal and who's faking it. And if you just want better relationships, this book hands you the tools to connect more authentically and protect yourself from emotional games. The truth is, in this world, the most successful people are not always the smartest. They're the most socially intelligent. They can read the room, sense shifts in mood, and influence without force. That's not magic. It's psychology. Mastered. So before you take another step in your career, in your business, in your life, equip yourself with the ability to see people for who they really are. Pick up Read People like a book, and start learning the one skill no one teaches, but everyone uses.
If you toss a stack of cash and a bone in front of a dog, it'll always pick the bone. Why? Because it doesn't realize the cash could buy endless bones. Similarly, if you offer a young person a smartphone and a valuable book, they'll likely pick the phone to play games, not understanding the long-term value the book could bring to their life. There was a man who was very poor. He had nothing left. Feeling sorry for him, a wealthy man decided to help. He gave the poor man a pickup truck and said, "Use this truck to do delivery jobs this winter. By next spring, you'll have enough saved to start a small business. By fall, you won't be poor anymore." The poor man listened and began using the truck for odd jobs. But life quickly felt harder than before. The truck needed gas, and he still needed food. Expenses started piling up. One night, he had an idea. A motorcycle uses less fuel and would be cheaper to maintain. So he sold the truck and bought 2 motorcycles. Over time, he had to sell 1 motorcycle to make ends meet. Later, when life got tough again, he sold the last motorcycle and bought a few bicycles, thinking they'd be even cheaper. But soon, he was struggling just as much as before. Finally, he sold his last bicycle to buy alcohol, thinking a drink might help him forget his problems. When spring came, the wealthy man returned, expecting to see the poor man thriving. Instead, he found him drunk, with no truck, no business, and no progress. Disappointed, the wealthy man left quietly. The poor man remained stuck in poverty. This story shows that poverty isn't always about ambition or intelligence. Often it's about a lack of control over impulses and desires. Without a plan, people spend everything they have and stay stuck in the same cycle. True wealth doesn't just come from hard work. It comes from smart decisions and understanding how to manage money. If you're struggling financially, working hard but not getting ahead, or watching your money disappear too quickly, there's a book that could help. The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. This book explains how our thoughts, feelings, and habits about money shape our financial decisions. With 20 short chapters, it mixes real-life stories with practical advice, showing that success isn't just about knowledge, it's about mindset. The psychology of money isn't just about investing, it's about building a better relationship with money. What is the most ruthless way to handle disobedient subordinates? One day, a tiger tasked a wolf with overseeing a group of 10 foxes and distributing their food. The wolf split the food evenly into 11 portions, 1 for itself and 1 for each fox. However, all 10 foxes felt the portions were unfair and joined forces against the wolf. Overwhelmed, the wolf went to the tiger for guidance. The tiger said, "Let me show you how it's done." The next day, the tiger divided the food into 11 unequal portions, keeping the largest share for itself and leaving the foxes to sort out the rest. Chaos erupted as the foxes turned on one another, each fighting to secure the best piece. In the end, they all ended up with less than before. On the second day, the tiger repeated the process, but this time kept 2 portions for itself, leaving only 9 smaller shares for the foxes. Once again, the foxes scrambled for the leftovers, and by the end of the day, a weaker fox lay injured, unable to compete. By the third day, the tiger divided the food into just 2 parts, 1 for itself and 1 for the entire group of foxes. This time, the strongest fox fought off the others to claim the remaining share. Once it had eaten its fill, it allowed the weaker foxes to eat the scraps, effectively asserting dominance and turning the others into its subordinates. From then on, the tiger only needed to control the strongest fox, who kept the rest of the group in line. In life, Those who achieve great success often understand human nature and power dynamics at a deeper level. They leverage this knowledge to influence others and maintain control, sometimes without overt confrontation. If you find yourself constantly overlooked or disadvantaged, no matter how hard you work, it may be because you haven't yet mastered the essential principles of power that secure your place and value in the world. Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power offers profound insights into these dynamics. By exploring the history of influential figures, from ancient leaders to modern icons, it distills 48 key principles that form the foundation of power in society. With this knowledge, you'll be better equipped to navigate the complexities of power in both your career and personal life.